Now this video is going to look at how we deal with that smoke 100 data, which is categorical data, which you deal with a little bit differently than quantitative data. Right? We could, usually look at percentages, like a breakdown of how two things are related. So what's described in the Word document, again, you want to be reading through that as you're going through this lab. This lab will be very confusing if you're not using the Word document as your guide. So the idea is a 0 here means that they didn't smoke, and a 1 means that they did smoke. So a 1 is an affirmative response. So what we wanted to do here was just add up all these zeros and ones. Whatever that adds up to is going to be the number of people in the whole sample that said yes, right? So we could get the percentage of folks out of the total that smoked, the actual percentage, and then 100% minus that will be the percentage that didn't. So notice a couple things here I'll point out to you. We're looking at row 2. We start at row 2. We're not looking at row 1 because that's your label. And we're in column D for the smoke 100. Okay. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here. So we can see when we get to the bottom, column D, jump down here, okay, we can see that we had 20,000 observations total, right? Because if this is row 20,001, the first row was a label, so there's 20,001 observations. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here, and I'm going to hit an equal sign, right? And what you can see is that as soon as you hit an equal sign, the Excel is looking for you to do some kind of calculation, and what I want to do here is to sum. So the very first thing that comes up is sum. So I double click on that, and now it wants to know what was my first number. Well, my first number was in column D, row 2. And if we enter a colon, okay, not a semicolon, but a colon, and then let Excel know the next one is also in column D, but we want to go all the way to the end at observation or row 20,001. Highlights that row, so you know you did it right. We press enter, and there's that 9441 number. Okay, well, 9441 out of what? So if I hit equals here, see if Excel will divide for me. 9441, and then I want to divide by 20,000, right? All right, so it gives me that decimal, or that percentage. So 47%, I can make this a little bit bigger for you. 0.47025, that's the percentage that smoked. Okay, so what we want to create now is that little table that you see in your Word document. Okay, so the response that they gave, I mean, we could type it in, go to the top. And before I forget, one other thing, if you're looking at the Excel document, if you're confused where the numbers are coming from, right, you just saw where I got this from. The other number, 10,559, what's that? Well, that's 20,000 minus 9441. Okay, don't forget to put the equal sign there, okay? And then here, where's that other decimal come from? It's 100% minus 0.47205, or we could just do equals 10559, and then divide by 20,000. All right, that's the same thing as 1 minus 0.47025. So these are the numbers that we're going to put in this little two-way table that we want to create. So we can put it really wherever we want. I'm going to just drop it in right over here. So what do we have? We had response, right? We had frequency. We had yes, smoked at least 100. Okay, and so on. I won't write the whole thing in there. The other response was no, have not smoked, ... Okay, rather than typing it on. You'll type them all out, have a better looking chart. and I got 9441 and 10559. So notice these are my frequencies, right? If I wanted the relative frequency, right, the percentages, that's these guys down here, 0.472 and 0.528. I just rounded to 3 decimal places, but they add to 100. Okay? So what do we want to do? We want to make that a little chart for this, right? So if I highlight these that I want to put in a table, and I go up to Insert, okay? Excel is pretty smart, especially when it comes to these kinds of charts. So a bar graph would probably work pretty well for this. See if Excel can figure out how I would like this to look. Yep. It just does it automatically for me. It kind of realizes, like, yeah, what you want is to see, you know, the proportion that have smoked and proportion that, or I'm sorry, these aren't proportions, they're totals, right? Total that smoked, total that not smoked. And truthfully, this chart's a little bit misleading, I think. I mean, this bar here looks like it's 3 times as tall as this, when really we're looking at pretty close to a 50-50 split. Okay, so since this is a little bit misleading, what we can do, we can click here and right-click and go to Select Data. Okay? So under Select Data, I'm going to add. Okay, right? What am I going to add? I'm going to add the series name, okay, which would be relative frequency, so I highlight those. And I'm going to add the series values, which are these columns. Okay, sorry about that. Try that again. So we're going to do Select Data, okay, and I'm going to add. Okay, the series name is going to be relative frequency, and then the series value are these percentages here. When I do that, let's see. There we go. So now when I do that, I get a chart that is a little bit more realistic, right? They're a little bit closer than we might think. Okay? Okay, and suppose instead of having frequencies on here, I wanted relative frequencies. That's a little bit more valuable statistic that I can see, 47% to roughly 53%, right? So easiest way to do that is to highlight what you want to go in the chart. I'm going to hold down the Control key right now, so I'm holding the Control key, and then I go and I select, oops, not that one, over here, Control. So I'm going to highlight, let's try it again, Control key, can't get over here for some reason.